Welcome to Queer Coded Country, where Yeehaw meets Yes Queen.
A podcast about growing up in the South and realizing that it's pretty dang queer. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Hunter.
And Hunter, I love your bucket hat, for one, because you know it was a gift from moi.
Yes, and I thought that I gifted you the hat. We talked about this in Fire Island.
Yes.
And I thought that I'd gifted it to you.
Yeah.
But perhaps you gifted it to me.
I think I gifted it to you.
I think you did. We love gifts.
We love gifts. We love Casey.
We love Casey. We love happy and sad at the same time.
I feel that emotion on the daily.
I know. And yeah, I am also in my Heart of the Woods merch, which again, what a beautiful song.
Casey does it again.
You're wearing your dolly.
We're paying respects to our origins, our divas.
Yes. And honestly, as we were talking about, how's your mom and him?
Yeah.
Happy and sad at the same time describes this because, girl.
Yeah.
This is the final episode of season fucking 1 of Queer Coded Country.
That is right. And we are going to be back for a season 2. We're taking a quick summer respite so we can rest our bones, rest our minds, and come back full force for you for a season 2.
Yes. It's like when Casey was talking about releasing her album. And Deeper Well. And she was like, it'll be a good respite for the gays. They've had their popper BPM anthems. Now they can take a break, hydrate responsibly. That's what we're asking everyone to do. Is hydrate responsibly and get ready for fucking season 2. Because listen, this was once an infant idea. And now it's our entire identity.
I mean, if it worked for Casey, it's going to work for us.
And that is what we're first things first buckling our belts for.
Exactly. Because tonight we really are realizing that through
realizing things. We've been realizing things.
And we're going to continue to realize things.
We are always nonstop realizing things.
But through the podcast, we've been retelling like deeply personal stories that historically have just been between you and I, but we've shared them on this like very public platform and started to realize that not only you and I see each other, but like people that listen who have reached out to us and connected with us, they see us and they see who we are and they have gone through similar experiences. And that's what Queer Coded Country is all about. So tonight we're going to be celebrating the queer community, the allies that see us, and talking about those deeply personal stories that are personal to us, but also hearing what's queer coded about their own experiences and how we relate to those as well. Yes.
I think that has been one of the most exciting things about this whole journey. Like, I expected a lot of things. I expected to realize things, if you will. It has been so healing. And it's funny because we just watched the Spring Awakening documentary that somehow I missed. And honestly, I forgot how much a show like Spring Awakening changed my life. And if you're not familiar with Spring Awakening, it was Lea Michele and Jonathan Groff and so many other amazing cast members. It was 2006 when it was on Broadway, but the story is about 1800s Germany and the themes of sex and abortion and homosexuality and all of these things that no one teaches you about.
The lessons that people are too afraid to talk about out loud or feel like they need to be swept under the rug.
Yes.
And the results of what that could be if you don't.
Yes. What happens if you don't talk about it? And that musical changed my life in 2006, and we'll save the depths of the emotional breakdown that I had last night watching that for another episode. But this podcast has changed me in ways and given me the space to talk about things that I didn't even know still existed in my memory. And again, tonight we are celebrating the end of season 1. We're celebrating our title holders who have been listening and supporting us. And we are bringing some of their stories into it. And to get us started, we have to share some special gifts that we've received from title holders.
And my goodness, thank you for the gifts, dolls, because if anyone loves gifts, it's you and me.
It's us. We love gifts. Listen, we love to give gifts.
Oh, honey.
But we also love to receive gifts.
Say that.
So if you're listening and you'd like to send us a gift, please slide into our DMs. Hit us up at howdy@queercodedcountry.com. We accept all gifts. We accept all forms of payment. A
100%.
Mexico mango vape, I'll take it. Some Jergens, I'll take it.
Or just a lifetime of personal commitment.
Oh,
something.
Validation. A lifetime of validation is actually the gift that we actually are seeking in all of this. Also, DMs are open for nudes.
Yeah.
I love a nude.
As always.
For the right price, I'll send you some nudes.
Yeah.
As if they're not already out there for free. Anyway, to get us started, I think this was the first gift that this was sent to me. Sorry, Tucker.
That's okay.
But sweet title holder Dan, a heterosexual man, hot, by the way.
Hello, Ally.
Hey, Dan.
Hi, Ally.
Yeah, hi, Ally. Sent me a fucking prom king hat.
In all its glory, and that is straight from Oriental Trading Company.
It is actually from Oriental Trading Company. I look like Chef Boyardee in it, honestly, which is giving Chef Boyard cunt.
Yeah.
But what I want to say about this is one, thank you to Dan, but also he told me when he sent it to me, he was like, well, actually, I was also prom king and I did get a crown. And I reached out to my mom and dad back in Minnesota to see if they still had it because he was going to send me his fucking original prom king hat, which is iconic.
That is so sweet.
So sweet. And I know. And he did almost lost my Chef Boyard cunt hat. They didn't have it. So he got one from Oriental Trading Company, which honestly
Talk about seeing us.
And listening.
Honey, that's a deep cut.
That's a fucking active listener.
That's episode 1, baby.
Bitch. To the core. We also received some hats.
Yes, some beautifully embroidered hats. This one says country.
Country from title holder Natasha, which we love. Cunt spelled C-U-N-T. Country, which is who we are to our core. And we've seen this one, but the Queer Coded Country first ever merch, which get excited because we're planning season 2 may or may not include some merch. So get your wallets ready. Again, we accept all forms of payment, maybe a gift with purchase. You really never know what kind of promos
You don't know what we're brainstorming up over here.
Honey, we thought showering. And I would like to formally let everyone know that when we're brainstorming, we're actually thought showering in the outdoor shower in Fire Island. And we're spelling thought
peace.
T-H-O-T. Anyway.
Thank you to Kate for the Queer Coded Country embroidered hat.
Yes, we love that. More to come. And the last from title holder Emily, the sweet Lisa Frank buttons and keychains.
I mean, that's what I would have wanted to accessorize with had I been entering elementary school at that time. Thank you, Emily.
Emily sees us.
God,
and
so good.
Again, we love gifts.
I mean, it's not just the people that have listened that have really seen us, but it's also the queers out here doing business, honey.
Truly,
they are standing on business and they are seeing the people and representing the community in multiple ways because we also received a package from a queer-owned and queer-founded brand called Hey Sweet Cheeks.
Hey Sweet Cheeks. First of all, we love PR boxes.
Two sets of sweet cheeks right here.
Honey, these cheeks are fat and they are sweet, honey.
Yeah.
I just was in we just were in Fire Island and the cheeks are out for the season.
Oh yeah, they are.
Listen, let me tell you a thing about Dr. Sterry on the Upper East Side. He sucked all the fat out of my back. We'll save that for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
So the ass is sitting, honey.
Oh, I bet, baby.
You have to take care of an ass like this. And let me tell you, I've seen your ass, baby. That's a good ass.
It's a good ass, and I need to keep it in pristine condition.
Those are good fucking cheeks.
So the whole thing with Sweet Cheeks is that they've merged sex care and skincare and have created products that are really judgment-free for self-care down there.
And listen, being gay is hard.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Also, being a bottom, harder.
Oh, bitch.
If you're out there and you don't know what is involved in prepping to take a dick
Listen
in your
to our
ass,
sex ed episode.
Please refer back. But anyway, Sweet Cheeks, we love it. Their branding is super cute.
Yeah.
We love, they have a Rub Me Right, a self-play lotion. There's also Slick Trick in here for personal lubricant.
Yep.
A backslide glide, honey. I be backslide gliding all over the underwear party.
Sounds perfect for the deer stand.
Oh my God. No, that you need the personal lubricant for the deer
100%.
stand. Bottoms up. Ooh, bum and body mask, baby.
That's how we're keeping our cheeks in condition.
Oh my God. I can't wait to scrub this ass. Also, condoms. Well,
so something
sex
that was
ed and sex care is important.
100%.
I have other preventative methods that I'm using. I'm not disrespecting the use of condoms, and
100%.
everyone should be protecting themselves in the way that makes sense for them. And also check out Sweet Cheeks.
Hey,
and their
Sweet
cute
Cheeks.
branding. And thanks to the Sweet Cheeks team. I'm like literally throwing shit across
I love
the
it.
room right
I love
now.
it. But we've also heard from like deeply personal connections to ourselves and like what they've wanted to ask us, like what haven't we spoken on?
Yes.
What have we lightly touched on that we need to
Yes.
speak on more? Like, I'm excited to hear from the people. We're having our Delilah moment.
Oh my God, honey. Also kind of Sinner Sunday.
Oh,
If we're
it's kind of confessionals.
Oh my God. We love that.
Yeah.
And also we love Delilah.
Yeah.
And also we love Watch What Happens Live. We love a call-in. Honey, we're living our fantasy.
Absolutely. Which is kind of what's great about this podcast is like I was saying, like it's telling stories that we've never told before and being heard and seen and living out our inner child stories that we never got to
inner
tell
child
before.
work.
Bitch, it
inner
is.
child work. I
That's
talked
right.
to that about
So you're welcome. This is free therapy.
Yes. Also a form of payment that we will accept.
Oh,
so we have kind of two parts of this. So we have some questions that title holders have asked that we'll elaborate more on. And then we just have some fun stories, some that submitted a little audio for us, and then some others that submitted anonymously.
I love those
because that's the Sinner Sunday of it all.
Exactly.
So let's start with our first question.
Our first title holder.
Okay, we're ready.
Hi, dolls. Catherine speaking. Just wanted to let you both know how much I'm loving the pod and loving and missing you both so dearly. I have something I selfishly would love for y'all to speak on, with it being Pride Month and all, and that is, what can we be doing better as allies for the community? Let us know the good, the bad, the fakeness, all of it, anything you're seeing that we can do. As a title holder, I would greatly appreciate not having said title stripped away. And while we're also in the season, I would love to hear about the special place that Fire Island holds in your hearts. Maybe elaborate on some of that for all of us viewers at home. I am sat with popcorn, ready to hear. Anyway, I love you both so much. So proud of you. Keep it up. Kisses. We'll talk soon. Also, Hunter, I need you to explain to Tucker how criminal it is that he has not seen Spice World. It's been on my mind. Fix it immediately. But second, if you haven't seen it either, my flight's booked. You will both be seeing me. Anyway, kisses. Love you so much. Okay, bye.
Kisses back. Also, a thing about title holders, they also love to talk.
Oh,
bitch. Trina was like, I've got a few questions. I've got these questions. And then also one at the end.
Something that's going to read somebody. I'm going to read Tucker really quickly.
And we love that.
Yeah.
So I'll recap.
Yeah.
One, Trina, title holder,
Love you, Catherine.
So asking about allyship, what can the title holders and other allies do? Second part, Fire Island. Third part, Spice World.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and knock the Fire Island out of the way because there's too much to go into, and perhaps we've already thought showered over how we're going to present Fire Island. So stay tuned for Fire Island, but let's start with the allyship.
Yeah, I think there are a ton of ways, and I think the most like deeply personal way that the allies in my life and the allies that I would hope that continue to grow in their allyship are really just like continuing to open themselves up to more stories and perspectives within the queer community itself. You know, it's not just like gay men, it's not just lesbians, it's trans people, it's non-binary people, and opening themselves up and taking those stories to heart and helping that shape how they move around the world and show care and respect to the people that they don't know are queer or do know that they are queer. And I think that that is the most important thing that they can do.
Or on that note, creating a safe space for people to not know.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the big themes of the podcast is that people did know about us. They did know that we were gay, but they weren't giving us, well, Trina did for you, but they weren't.
I'm already getting emotional.
I know, but they weren't giving us the space to know that that could be the option or to know that. So I think that's one of the most important things that people can do is just all of the things you said, but also just letting people not have a linear journey with sexuality or gender identity or any of those things, because it is not linear.
Right.
And we desire so much as humans to put people in boxes and to give them labels. And that is just so constricting and so conforming. And what you feel in one era of your life may be different than the other. And I think for me, like, I have a little bit more of I've drawn a pretty hard line in the sand recently about who gets to claim in my life that they're an ally and who doesn't. And I think that the biggest thing for me right now is like, if you truly want to be an ally and you are more conservative or you're religious or you have, you know, all of these things that are fundamental values in your life, you have to separate the fact that not everyone is religious and not everyone believes what you believe. And you can wholeheartedly, with your whole chest and your whole hey sweet cheeks massaged ass, feel what you feel in those convictions. But please do not project that onto other people and recognize that we are humans and we are all humans, and your contorted view of what the Bible says or what religion says or whatever can't be projected onto us as queer people. And you can't claim to love me. You can't say, oh, well, I love my gay nephew Hunter, or I love my gay cousin Hunter, or I love my friend Hunter. We are a community, and you can't pick and choose. Selective support, I'm not fucking interested. And it, you know, it's really, really hurtful as queer people to feel that someone loves us, to feel that someone supports us, and we can feel that on an individual level, but to see my friends' parents posting memes hating on trans athletes or talking about trans athlete bills or propaganda or restrooms or not teaching about queer stories or banning queer books or supporting this administration. Listen, there are queer people that are Trumpers, and to them I say, fuck you. But also to people who truly want to be an ally and truly want to claim this love and support of a community, that cannot exist while still supporting this administration. And again, that's a hard fucking line in the sand for me. And I could go on forever and ever about that. But those two things under this current political climate and what's happening in front of us in real time cannot exist together. And I have not a single fucking bit of interest in you having a seat at my table if you're selective in that support and selective in that allyship and you want to exclude any queer narratives. Because the thing is, honey, we've been here.
Yep.
We're always going to be here.
Yep.
I was reading an article on them, the publication recently, and the editor-in-chief, who's trans, basically was like, we make everything better.
Yeah.
And we have always been the foundation and bedrock of culture. And we have outlasted times like this before, and we will fucking outlast this. And we will remember who matches our freak. That's what the quote said. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
And I could go on, but I think that I've set it up.
I know.
For now.
What you said, it just made me think about a lot of the themes and different things we've talked about in our episodes about how even when the queer community wasn't necessarily as visible as it is now, it's always still been a network, and there's been a heart of the woods. There's been a community that has talked to each other. Queer people have always existed. We will continue to exist, and we will continue to build the world around us that you exist into.
Yes. And listen, I don't need to conform to your fundamental Christian traditional view of what life looks like to be valid and to be successful and to get anything in this world that I want. And that's the part, again, like, people have to break that apart in their mind, that queer people, not only queer people, many people in this world do not want to exist under the core conditional conditional is not the word I'm looking for, but under this like idea that was given to us about what success looks like and what happiness looks like. Like the word indoctrination.
Okay.
We've all been indoctrinated to believe all of this shit. And, you know, you can't exist outside of that. And in order to be an ally, you have to allow people to exist outside of those barriers.
Period.
Spice World.
So Spice World. It's a shame that I've never seen it. And I will say, I have a vivid memory of me looking up, like knowing we were going to Little Rock to go see a movie and looking at the movies in the movie times in the newspaper, and Spice World.
The newspaper.
Oh, honey, the movie times. You got to, what's playing at the rave? What's playing at Colonel Glenn?
The AMC, baby.
Exactly. But I remember we were going to watch a movie and I was like, oh, I really want to see Spice World. And we didn't get to go see it. Bitch,
I own it on VHS, and my mom was recently doing what she saw on Netflix, The Swedish Death Clean, where she got rid of everything. And she called me and was like, I'm going through all of these movies and I still have the VHS. And I was like, bitch, if you throw that VHS away, I swear
we need to get a VHS player stat. If you want to gift us something, gift us a VHS
motherfucking VHS player, because we're streaming Spice World, honey. Streaming.
I know.
Honey, we're being nice and rewinding.
Well, it's stripped from
I know,
streaming.
It's gone. I just have 2 comments. The fucking bus that they had, you will die, because it literally is like a soundstage size, and little gay Hunter was like, oh my God, this tour bus is so cool. Also, Alan Cumming is in it. Hello. And then my last comment on Spice World is that the song Mama changed my life. And I think, producer Sammy, we're ready for our next question.
Delilah. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now. Hello, this is title holder Kate, calling to seek some advice on something that I struggle with Southerners and Southern culture and traditions, that as a white woman, I will say that I feel like also the LGBTQ community might also struggle with. And that is the pressure to have a traditional marriage and family. And I guess maybe not traditional family like you need to have 2 boys and a girl or whatever, but just to have a family, period. I am someone who doesn't know for sure if I want to have children or not. And I only had that thought or realized that that could be a reality when I moved to New York. So I grew up in Arkansas. I lived in Dallas for a little bit, and then I moved to New York in 2020. And I saw people that had chosen not to have children. And I was like, oh, wow, they're choosing this. It's an option. If you don't want to do it, you shouldn't, and you shouldn't feel like you have to. I was recently around some people, mostly Southern, and we were kind of talking about this, and someone said, like, they were referring to their mom and her friends, but they were like, oh, well, my mom and her friends, like, they would just be so offended by me saying I didn't want to have children, or someone a female not having children. And I was just like, what? Like, why? Just let people have the choice to live their life however they want and stay out of their business and don't push your opinions on them. And if you love them, support them in what they decide they want to do. That is my 2 cents. Love you both. You're doing the most. Later.
Okay, Sister Kate, title holder Kate, I'm going to, just compliment her before I read her.
Yes. Okay. That's a nice way to do it.
Yes. First of all, we love Kate.
Yeah.
Kate got the hats for us. And in many ways, Kate is a founding member and council of Queer Coded Country. She's on the board of directors because Kate, through her partner Joe, is how we met producer Sammy to begin with. So we love that. But also, on Watch What Happens Live when they do the video call-ins and like sometimes the people won't get to the fucking question. And Andy's like rolling his eyes like, oh my God, okay, come on.
What's your question?
Yeah, none of you are going to hear the full 5 minutes that Kate read to us because producer Sammy's going to fix it in post. But Kate was giving that and we love her for it. And honestly, that ties in very similarly with like this indoctrination and these expectations. Like what Kate is sharing is that even as a straight white woman, she feels these pressures of that same conditioning and of this same nuclear family idea that we were all raised with, that essentially says if you don't get married, if you don't have kids, then you have no value or you aren't successful. Like the measure of success to not everyone, but in the communities that we grew up in these small towns in the South, was marriage and children and having this nuclear family. And not to say that any of those things are not great.
Right.
And if that's truly what you want, perfect. But again, allow people, especially, other, queer people or whatever, to live outside of that. I keep going back to that. And I think it's easier for us as queer people to separate in many ways the idea of feeling like a failure because we don't have a traditional family or we don't want marriage or we don't have those partnerships more so than probably heterosexual people feel, because just existing, like getting through that was like the first hurdle of like, well, we're already different.
Right.
So like that is that first step.
Yeah. Or doing it on the timeline that you're expected to do it. I had a very similar reaction in that there are so many ways to be a person that builds and cultivates community, whether that is with your friends and your chosen family and the people that show up in your life later in your life that are like family members, or it's your existing family, or it's just the people around you. That there are so many productive and positive ways of contributing to that feeling besides just bearing your own children or adopting your own children or building your own family within your home. Like those are all very respectful things for people who absolutely want them. But like what you were talking about, like there are a lot of ways to show allyship amongst the queer community and even outside of the queer community by letting people live their lives and let them make the choices that they want to make, and showing up for them and respecting those choices is how you can be an ally regardless of where in the community they sit.
And just like you shouldn't ask or say when you meet a gay person, oh my God, I have a gay friend, you should meet them.
Yeah.
If you, like, I'm speaking on behalf of the Kates of the world and the other title holders that feel this way. If you meet someone in a long-term partnership and the first thing that you ask them is, are y'all going to get married or do you want to have kids? That is disrespectful.
Yeah.
There's so much more depth in people and in relationships and partnerships. It does not all have to be about marriage. And I think that I personally was someone that grew up with those traditional views and like really always thought I wanted that. I mean, I had a list of baby names in my phone.
Yeah, I think
I
do.
started. Well, I do. I famously, when my friends get pregnant now, I like assign the unborn child a name from the phone to call it until it has a name.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like, I think that as I've evolved and gone to therapy, I realize that like, my therapist asked me once, like, well, what is your view of marriage and relationships? And I was like, a prison.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, if you think about the history of marriage, it's like rooted in ownership.
Oh, yeah.
And women are treated like property.
Yep.
And people are breeding nonstop because it's like, you know, that's what you do, or blah, blah. I could go on and on about the brood mares that I know. But it's also like, not everyone should fucking have kids.
Yeah.
Like, I watch people on like their fourth child. I'm like, honey, how are you affording that?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And also, we didn't ask to be brought into this world. Brian and I talk about this a lot, but it's like, just because we now exist, like, you don't have this obligation to perform or be a certain way for your parents or your grandparents because they chose to have a child. Like, that's the whole thing. Don't have a kid. And if you're listening, I fucking mean this shit. Don't have a fucking kid unless you're willing to accept that kid in whatever path they take or whoever they want to be or whatever fucking choices they make. Just because you bring us into this world does not mean you own us, does not mean you control us, does not mean you get to say how we live our fucking lives, and does not mean you get to make us feel guilty or like we're a failure because we're not having kids or giving you fucking grandkids. Also, while I'm on it, just because other people in our lives have kids does not mean that we have to be any kind of uncle or whatever. Give us the autonomy to pick and choose how we engage in that.
Yeah.
And yes, there are people who love being an aunt or love being an uncle or love whatever, but it's like, there's no expectation. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm obviously estranged from my sister. Whole series on that bullshit, but it's like one of the things that I've always felt since leaving. And you know, she has a child and I was very present in his early life, but then I went on to live my life and I was always made to feel, well, you're never home, you're never here, you're not showing up. It's like, no, I'm living my life and I want to be as present as I can, but that might not always make sense. And just because you chose that doesn't mean that I have to. Let people have other measures of value and depth and success outside of marriage and children.
Yep. And I think that's where I was going to with the allyship question of listening to people's personal experiences and letting those be your guide and trying to see somebody for who they are and listening to what their deep personal experiences, and don't assume that because that they're sharing with this is something that they've learned. This is deep and personal to them. That applies to queer people and how they discover themselves, and that's applies to people who realize that one type of relationship might not be the best for them, or that having children might not be the best for them, or that it's not their personal journey. And I have nothing but respect and like pride for the people that I do know that do listen to those personal stories, do lead their families through that and raise beautiful families and people and productive citizens of the world because that they lead that way. But like, that doesn't mean that the person sitting next to you in the movie theater seeing Spice World has to do that.
Bitch. Say that.
Period.
Next question.
Who's next? Next caller.
Next caller.
Hi, this is Matthew Clay, longtime listener and first-time caller. What I love most about queer-coded country is it allows us, through humor, to understand what we gained, but really lost and suffered through while we were in the closet. And my question for our esteemed hosts are, what was it like crushing and loving in the closet in your respected university and high schools? I'm a romantic at heart, #Pisces season. And for me, it was quite intense and difficult, not only harboring those feelings and feeling like I had to shove them down because it wasn't safe to bring them up. But then also when I was able to date, it was kind of like an explosion, and not in a good way. And it took me a lot of years to figure it out. So would love to hear your experiences of crushing and loving in the closet, and especially in queer-coded ways. Thank you.
Title holder Matthew.
Matthew.
I love Matthew so much. He's been a huge part of my life. And I met him when I moved to Chicago, and I'm getting emotional. It's interesting that that's the question he asked about what was it like crushing and loving in these small towns and in high schools and universities. And he's a lover, I'm a lover, and he talks about this like explosion, right? When you finally do get to. I think for me, growing up, I had that same experience where like I had all of this love to give, and I didn't always get to express it, and I didn't always get to share it. And so in high school and in college, the moments that I did often led to like detrimental outcomes or soul crushing experiences because I was latching on to something that I didn't truly understand or didn't know how to experience or be in. And I found myself in those early years, like the people I had crushes on and the people that I gravitated towards, it was not to say anything about that person, but it was like, I had a crush on you when we met, and we're sisters and we're meant to be sisters. Same with Taylor. We were always meant to be sisters. But it was like seeing someone that felt like me in those early years is like how I first experienced crushes. And honestly, like I feel like Matthew was one of the first person that like ever saw me in a way that no one else had, and like gave me a view and perspective of love that I still hold so deep and cherish to this day when we met. And just a really important person and like someone that has helped me figure out what it means to love and be in love and how people show it and receive it.
I went through the podcast and like talking about these moments in our lives growing up. Like if you were to like ask me on the street, like, oh, did you have crushes growing up? I probably would say no. And then I actually start to think and look back and I'm like, there absolutely were deep crushes that I had that I at the time did not have the tools in my toolbox to be able to understand that the feeling that I was feeling was actually a crush. And like whatever a crush means when you're X years old. But I remember in middle school, there were a set of people that I like really sought like validation from and like attention from. And there was a weird thing one day in middle school where they had friend pictures and they were free. And I remember grabbing the one person that I did have a crush. Like looking back, I'm like, I definitely had a crush on him. And then another guy, and I was like, y'all, we have to go take best friend pictures. We have to get these photos. And I just wanted it captured in print, the photo of us, and to have something to look at and say like, this is cherished to me. And it's crazy thinking back on it now. I'm like, oh my God, that was definitely what I was doing.
Yes. we did friend pictures and mini singers.
Yeah.
And I have a
mini singers.
Mini singer. Honey, that was like the middle school choir, baby.
Oh, well, I was because I have not heard
mini,
mini
singers, baby. But no, one of the things that you said is so true. And I think when thinking about that question, I was the same. I'm like, well, what were my crushes? What was that? And this is 100% true for queer coded country title holders who grew up in small towns and conservative towns in the South, but probably pretty true for the queer experience overall. What you were describing is something that I also felt. I didn't recognize certain things as crushes until I really looked back on it, because we were signaled from such a very early age that being gay was wrong. I was called a faggot in first grade.
Yeah.
We had this conditioned view of like a crush meant on the opposite sex.
Yeah.
A crush meant if you were a boy, you had a crush on a girl. And therefore, I did have these crushes and I did experience these things, but I didn't even know how to identify them. But I remember I was talking to Mom and thinking about crushes and trying to remember this one specific guy who is now gay, by the way. He rode a beautiful Palomino horse and he was so gorgeous and so sweet. And he had these dimples. Honey. I remember as a little kid being so drawn to him and just like wanting to be around him. And he had this warm energy. He's still hot, by the way. I mean, also a farmer, hun.
Oh, honey, wow.
I want to ride on his big green tractor, baby.
Farmer seeks a husband.
Right? But yeah, I mean, thinking through it too, like there were, the guy that I lost my virginity to, like it was so in secret, right? That it wasn't until years later that I looked back and I was like, oh, I was in love with him. I cared deeply for this person. But it was like you only got these fleeting moments to be true and raw and vulnerable. And then it's like post-nut clarity comes and you're like,
always does.
We're just friends again and we are whatever. And you go back into this world that like has to exist to make everything feel right. But I was sitting there wishing, bitch, we used to fuck in the bunkhouse at the lake house, which was the shed that my dad converted into like put bunk beds for us to stay in. And like, I wanted to live in the bunkhouse with him, but we had to go back. And I also was thinking about Garrett. I was out of the closet. I met Garrett, a guy that we both know who is just an incredible human. I met him when I was a sophomore, so I was already out, but he was in the closet. And I was in love with Garrett. Like, just truly had the biggest crush and felt so connected to him, but he was in the closet and he was like, flirty but like not ready yet. And it was just this time where like I knew, right? And because I had a crush on him and probably didn't just want to be his sister at the time, I didn't say, bitch, I know you're gay. Or maybe Garrett, if you're listening, let me know if I did. I might have, but I just remember like I was an RA at the time and he had to park really far away and I had a parking spot. So I would like go pick him up and like bring him to the dorm and he would make mixtapes for me.
Oh my gosh.
And he introduced me to Rufus Wainwright. But when I really knew, I think actually now that I'm telling this story, he knew the Lady Gaga Judas choreography.
I mean... When you know sometimes.
And I was like, yes. And we I do think we eventually talked about it in some capacity because I have a specific memory of working the Maple Hill South front desk listening to Someone Like You from Adele. Because she had probably just been like, I'm not doing this, whatever. Anyway, we did eventually share a kiss and some other lovely things. And we're like, went on to be good friends and I still cherish that moment. But, it's this period of time where you go through this evolution of like what you want and your crush and all of this, you feel it has to be secret. You don't know what to do with it. Then you finally have the opportunity to do something about it. And it's almost overwhelming. Like it's almost too much.
Yeah.
I fell in love so fast and so hard and so quick because similar to Matthew, I had all of this love that I wanted to give and I just was desperate for someone to receive it.
Yeah.
And then you just get closer and closer. You know, I met Garrett. I was on a different journey than he was. And at that time, you know, we couldn't give each other what we needed.
Right.
And listen, it fucks you up. Matthew said it took him many years to figure this out. It took me many years, right? It's still hard and, you know, all of these things. But, you know, it was a thrill too sometimes, right? Like that part of it, all the trauma aside, like some of it was a thrill. I used to have one guy in particular that I horse showed with and like, looking back, I'm like, I think we were in love too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as the song goes in Country Strong, timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
But truly, it's also to what we were talking about giving space for people who don't yet know who they are, or they are figuring out and they don't know how to verbalize it too. Like, that happens a lot in the early crush days. It's like what you're saying with Garrett. Like he may not have been on like his own journey at that time to be able to mutter the words.
Right.
But you also like,
I saw him.
Now know the like real story, and like you saw him and you also allowed space for him to like figure it out himself too. And like, that's like, crazy.
It's funny because I was texting him because, you know, I was thinking about him as we prepare for this, but also, you know, those people are important. And one of the things that he said to me that like made me emotional, he was like, if it wasn't for you, I would have never kissed a boy.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about, I was to Garrett what this guy Taylor Ward was to me.
Yeah.
And I met him at Thespian Festival and he was out and I was so just like wanted to be in his presence. Like he was living this life that I wanted, right? And also just like so incredibly sweet and gentle and soft. And he was talented and was taking photos of me and like all of this stuff. But, you know, I hadn't told anybody when I met Taylor Ward. Not a single person. I'd never said the words out loud. And I said them to him because I had this crush on him. Bitch, we would talk on the phone for like 6 hours a night.
Yeah.
And that was just so important.
Yeah.
And that, you know, right around the time Spring Awakening came out, we were talking about the lyrics. But that changed me. And the crush that I had on him and the space that he provided for me to just explore that changed my life.
I also, in rewatching Overcompensating that we recently talked about, like Benito Skinner does such a good job of like capturing that, like figuring out the crush landscape. And I remember when I was in college, I met this guy that lived on my floor. He wasn't going to rush and I was going through rush and we became friends. And I was like, I kind of think this guy is gay.
Yeah.
He ultimately ended up being straight, but he was so there for me. Like he was the one that was with me getting Popeye's chicken after I found out I didn't make the frat.
And the like, dolphin gay.
But then looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I totally had a crush on him. Yeah. And I knew it at the time, but I have like so masked it in my, or like shoved it down that it was like, oh, it's not a crush. He was straight, but it was straight up a crush.
It was a crush.
Yeah.
I still have crushes on straight boys.
I mean,
straight. Using air quotations for the listeners. All right, I think we have one more question before we get into some stories.
Perfect.
Hi, boys. I had a little story and a question for you both. So, I knew this guy in high school very well. He was wonderful. And I thought he might be gay, but he wasn't out. And he was dating the hottest girl at our high school. And parentheses, go off. I love that. Anyway, one night at a party, she was sitting on his lap and they were by the fire. And then someone yelled, "Fight!" And it was like two super hot guys at my school that were fighting and rolling around on the ground. And my friend, while his girlfriend was still on his lap, jumped into the air and started running to the fight. This girl flies through the air like a flying squirrel, hits the dirt, and just kind of stays there. He runs away completely. He wants to see these boys wrestling. He wants to see the hot and sweaty wrestling. He doesn't care about her. But man, it was gruesome watching her just get up off the ground and dust herself off. And I think in that moment, we all knew. But, anyway, my question is, tell me about your high school girlfriends, because I think that is a Southern culture, gay culture thing. It's almost everyone that I know that is gay had their high school girlfriend or their middle school girlfriend. And I would just love to hear if y'all had any brushes with heterosexuality. So let me know. I love you both, and I'm just obsessed with you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
I mean, title holder Lee coming in strong.
First of all, I would just like to say, I hope that girl is okay.
Yes, she's still in the dirt.
Where is she now?
Hopefully she's married to someone hot.
Yeah, because she was just...
Or not married or not having kids. Hopefully she's doing whatever the fuck she wants.
And there we go, correcting, because we don't always get it right, but we have space for improvement.
There you go.
But also brushes with heterosexuality.
I mean,
I want a whole movie, podcast, theme, short series. I want it all.
That's a book title.
Honey, that is, iconic. Did you have any?
No, I did not. But we were talking about crushes, not dissimilar. Like when I think of like crushes, like in my head, I think of the girl crushes that I had growing up that I thought was like love or romance or connection in that way, but it was really just like friendship.
Yeah.
So I never had a girlfriend because I also didn't have the nuts to like ask a girl out.
Yeah.
And
the nuts, your Southern really came out.
Yeah, I know. But truly, like I never did ask a girl to be my girlfriend. I think I did, like the first person I ever kissed was a girl and she had a crush on me. And I think we were like boyfriend, girlfriend for a little bit in middle school. And then I like broke up on the like jungle gym. And so like, it was like a week in that time, but I never did because
you knew.
I even knew
because you were at Shuffle Steps, baby.
Yes,
you
exactly.
were not.
Just like Garrett, I was doing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy choreo.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa. That's a tongue twister. Can you slow it down? Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy choreo?
Yeah, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. It's a song from the 40s, and that was my first routine that I ever did. Anyway, so that's what I was doing, and she was in the dance class with me. But, at that age, she just couldn't, she wasn't giving me space to figure it out, but that's okay.
Yeah, similar. I had girlfriends in elementary and middle school, starting in junior high, kind of. Then I got dumped by title holder Jacqueline on homecoming day. So since then, I didn't really fuck with it. But my closest brush with heterosexuality was I had a threesome with my friend and her boyfriend.
Oh.
And that was one, riveting. Mm-hmm. Two, she's a fucking title holder.
That's a brush.
She's a honey, I was brushing, honey. I was like, learning.
Yeah.
I was listening, learning, living, laughing, loving out loud. But that's the closest I've been to heterosexuality, unless you count me trying to like force myself into like Blake and Molly's marriage or like other things.
That's pretty much a brush with that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I was wrong earlier. Producer Sammy has a question for us, and we're getting it live and in real time.
All right, Sammy, what's your question?
So, firstly, I have been very honored to be a part of the Queer Coded Country journey. I'm so thankful for your continued willingness to be open and vulnerable and let us all into the respective closets that you're in, because it is so important. And it's really an internal and an alone experience. So it's so nice and lovely to be able to share that and make people who are struggling with their identities feel less alone in their spaces. I know that knowing you both on and off mic has changed me for the better, and I'm definitely not alone. With that said, in the year 2025, what is the straightest thing about you?
Oh my God.
I have to take a beat because
I know. Like so emotional.
Oh my God, Sammy, we love you.
We love you, and none of this would be possible without you. And thank you for amplifying our world in such a beautiful way. And what many of you don't know is that a lot of times producer Sammy is not just asking questions because we're taking questions, but constantly asking and pushing us to dig in.
Yeah.
And we're so thankful. And it's so good.
I know. Okay, so the question is, what is the straightest thing about you?
I think that I know mine.
Okay,
and
please.
It's probably that I don't wash my hands after I pee.
COVID be damned.
And I feel like that's a very probably heterosexual male thing, is not washing your hands after you pee. But sometimes I don't even touch my fucking dick. And if I'm not touching it, I don't need to do anything.
There you go. I like that. I like that logic.
Honestly, if I'm making a mess, then yes.
Mine is not too far off of that track. Okay. And because this has happened to me, and I am the typical straight man in my bathroom because, honey, the toilet seat's staying up. Oh. And I have, in the middle of the night, gone in and my ass has been in the fucking commode because I haven't put the toilet seat down. So I'm just like everybody's straight husband drinking a Budweiser while the wife is standing in front of the TV. Move over. I got to watch this pitch. The commode toilet seat is up.
All right. So we have tendencies of straight men in bathrooms.
Can't shake it.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to be even more fun is now listening to some stories that other people have so graciously shared, either publicly or #anon.
Ooh.
In college, I was fully in love with my best friend and didn't realize it. And I remember asking my dad if we could adopt her. And he looked me dead straight in the eyes as a gay man and said, "I'm pretty sure that's just called marriage." Within the next 18 months, we'd fully slept together and had a threesome or two. Whoops.
Whoops. Okay, well, that's title holder Candy.
Oh my God.
Who is my work wife, my bestie, my icon, and also one day will be a guest to tell her queer-coded country story.
100.
Because as you heard in the clip, she also has a gay dad.
Yeah.
But literally, that's a queer-coded mentality. Can we adopt my best friend? And a gay dad to be like, babe, that's just marriage.
Exactly. And that is the theme of this episode, is seeing you. And he saw her and he knew what was going on because he could read between the lines.
Correct. He's like, baby girl.
I mean, and to also like cast it foreshadowing to them hooking up too.
Yes.
Like he knew.
And Candy was having threesomes too, like me and my friend and her boyfriend.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I never got there with my crushes. I thought about it quite a lot.
Yeah.
But
fantasize
in the deer stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is exactly what he said. And that's on the queers are going to call it like it is.
Oh, for sure.
Not all of them. That one did.
Yes. Okay, next.
Hi, title holder Lisa here, longtime friend of Hunter's from college. Just wanted to share a story that feels very relevant to queer-coded country and remind Hunter about the one time in college he bought a turkey baster from Walmart. And maybe it was Harps, but he bought it to use as a douche. Which I hope it was Harps, because if you go to Harps, you can't leave without buying their pre-made iced vanilla sheet cakes. So I'm hoping we did walk out of there with a sheet cake and a turkey baster. Anyways, you've come a long way from the turkey basting douche days. I love you both.
I mean, I wish I had. We need to. Do you think they still have the footage? Like, can we ask for
can we
this
ask
year?
The main
Please.
Okay. First of all, shout out to Lisa, who's been on this gay journey with me for a really long time. Yep. Also, it's so Lisa to specifically think about the sheet cake.
I mean, I want one right now.
That we might have left with. And for those of you that don't know, Harps is like a regional grocer.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, back to the sex ed episode. I probably talked about this then, but it's like, we didn't know what to do. No one taught us. No one told us.
Yep.
I was out here, thank God for metabolism in high school, just getting barebacked in the shed while not douche.
No.
We didn't have sweet cheeks back then.
And we wish we would have.
And the thing is, I will try to find an exact turkey baster that looks like the one that I use, but it was like big.
Yeah.
Like
honey, the birds are big.
It was like big and plastic and just like a small bulb. It was, I mean, it would have done something, but not what I was trying to get it to do.
Well, and that's what I'm like, in my head, I'm like, could you have even found a douche?
I would have never known where to go.
Yeah.
I would have literally, I mean, I guess seductions on college.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Would they have like...
Well, I would have been mortified to go in and be like, how do I clean out this ass to get butt fucked?
But, so you chose the grocery store. Yeah.
I felt more safe at the Harps with the sheet cake than I did in a seductions, baby.
And that's on knowing where you can feel safe in a space.
And that's why I still work in goddamn CPG to this day.
Exactly. Queer people know where they can feel safe or not.
Yes.
And we are getting it done with what we know. And at that time in your life, it was a turkey baster and a sheet cake for your reward later.
And honey, that's on Queer Coded Country.
Right.
Also, I don't use a turkey baster anymore, but I would in a pinch.
Hey besties, this is Cody Moore coming from you live over here in Northwest Arkansas. Mother Hunter reached out and asked if I would send in a cute little voice note to Tucker for the pod, and obviously I said yes with the quickness. Tucker Diva, as a fellow DeWittian and former Arco resident, I just wanted to let you know how proud I am of you and your success since the first time I saw you in old DeWitt high school, girl. Funny little story, I remember entering my first year of high school, obviously knowing who I was at such a young age. I was terrified because it's so hard to be yourself in a small town, as we all know, and I just wanted to say that even though we are both not out in high school, the divas can just clock each other, and seeing you so successful in high school was so reassuring. You let me know that I could make it through those years and be okay. Like I said, even though we weren't out, it was so nice to see someone I could secretly relate to, and although it was not public knowledge at the time, we both know who we are now, so it's all good. Thank you so much for being yourself and shooting yourself out of small town Arkansas and showing the girls honestly how it's done. Honestly, I am an avid Queer Coded Country listener, so I know you guys have spoken about this before, but you probably were like one of the first quote-unquote drag queens I ever saw in my life when you did your Tracy Turnblad hairspray moment for Homecoming. I believe that's what it was for. And although you may not have thought it had an impact on anyone, it did on me, and I have been obsessed with you ever since. Keep moving forward and doing what you're doing, because we have to represent for the small town gays, and even like Queer Coded Country, the podcast, is doing that so much. So both of you, keep on going. I love and appreciate you both so much, and I just wanted to remind you that you and what we all are doing is so important, not only for small town girls, gays, and theys, but for general education for literally everyone. I love you both literally so much and cannot wait to see you so soon. Bye, besties.
Wow. I mean, when I look back on my high school experience, there were people that I knew were gay. And I don't have regret, but I have sadness for not feeling like I treated them the way that they deserve to be treated. And I've never bullied anyone, but I definitely didn't embrace them for who they were being, even though people were doing that for me. And just looking back, that's one thing I wouldn't necessarily change, but I would give them a big old hug, because that's what people like Cody deserve. And I knew Cody. We didn't really hang out. We talked like a handful of times, but I just seeing someone like Cody flourish, and the other gay people that I grew up with and around that weren't necessarily out at the time, to see them living in their truth now, and to having relationships with them now, and then for us seeing who we are now and supporting each other, it is one of the like absolute joys of my life now.
Yes. Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Sorry.
And
thank you, Cody. I love you so much.
And I love Cody so much. And I think that I think so many of us feel that, Tucker.
Yeah.
And I think what Cody was saying to you is like, he saw that and he saw you, and clocked each other. You know, I have those same regrets. There are so many people that looking back, I wasn't showing up for them. I wasn't, and I can't honestly with my whole chest say that I didn't bully anyone, honestly. And I sit with that too. I think the grace that you deserve and that all of us deserve is that we, in those moments, in those small towns, we were living in true survival mode every day.
Yeah.
There was not ever a day that we woke up and we're like, oh, today I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Today I don't have to protect myself. Today I don't have to defend myself. Today I don't have to worry about being called a faggot or being gay.
Yeah.
I know you to your core, and I know that there was never, you're beating yourself up for not embracing them, but there was never a moment that they didn't see you and know that they were safe, or that you living the life that you were living was going to give them some space and freedom to do the same.
Yeah.
And that's fucking beautiful. And that's who you were to Cody and so many people. And there are other Codys and Tuckers and Hunters and all of these people that are still out there. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being gay is that we're all connected, honey. Even in New York, it's a small fucking town. But Cody is someone to me too that just represents everything that queer coded country stands
100%.
for and everything that it is. And he is such a light. And I met him after you and like didn't know the connection, but like adore title holder Cody. And he is queer coded country mama. And he will be on this podcast at some point.
And that's what I think too, like, cue up Rascal Flatts, because my wish is that people like Cody, like us, living in their truth and being their most authentic selves is only proof in the pudding that this is okay and it's only love and only light. And to have people out in the world that are doing that is only going to make the world a better place. That's so cheesy, but that's what I mean about but that's like the personal story part of it is like what motivates and changes perceptions and how people operate in the world.
Yes.
And I don't think I can say anything else.
Well, honey, let me lighten the load a little bit.
Sorry.
No, that's really beautiful. And I will take the reins and share some more lighthearted stuff. So we have some anonymous submissions.
Okay.
And I will read the first one. And this is the Sinner Sunday vibe.
Okay, here we go.
And we both had, for everyone listening, we did try to decide, just like we don't know who's Dottie and who's Kit, we also both want to be Macy. So
true.
Please know that if you're watching Mormon Moms, as we call them, we both think we're Macy. Okay. This anonymous submission from a title holder says, every week I would clip coupons with my mom. I started cutting out the JC Penney ads from the men's underwear section and would glue them onto construction paper and staple them together. By the time I was done, I had a 50-page decoupage book of jack-off material that I kept in a secret hiding place in my closet.
And that is on resourcefulness.
Honey, that's on an artist. I mean, that's on a creative.
Period.
That's on a visionary.
That's a vision. That is a vision.
Also, we had to jack off to magazines.
Hello. Well, I mean, it's just like you were talking. They were talking about submitting or cutting out pictures from the magazines. Honey, like that's us in the Walmart aisle looking at the Hanes people in the grandpa briefs. Even though
their grandpa.
Well, you know,
I famously
compared to like what like briefs are now, but like.
Honey, they didn't have the thongs on the wall.
They sure did.
We would have really been hard at the Walmart. I would have been hard at a Walmart, turkey basting at a Walmart. Actually,
you can do anything in a Walmart, which we've already talked about.
Baby, so much of my queer early things came from fucking Walmart.
Yes.
First time my nails were ever painted was in a Walmart.
Yeah.
With the samples.
But I mean, I love that so much because I relate to that because I was always like making magazines and I only wish I had the wherewithal to be able to do this, to make my own little like Playgirl.
Yes. Oh my God. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, we love you, title holder, Anon number 1.
Okay. So I have an anonymous one.
Okay.
And here we go. My mom had a 60-foot Ethernet cable that I would snake across the entire house to my bedroom so that I could get dial-up connection to the computer in my room while my parents were out. I could only download 2 pictures a minute, but nonetheless, it destroyed the computer multiple times. My mom took the computer in to have it investigated, and of course, they found out it was from gay porn. I was confronted about it, but because they weren't ready to face the fact that I was gay, they concluded that I was just curious about anatomy. Because we all know that it takes a terabyte of gay porn to understand anatomy. And yes, you can roll up 60 feet of Ethernet cord in the same amount of time it takes your mom to open the garage door. And that's on queer-coded lassoing. And that is a fucking title holder.
Yeah, fucking ha.
Absolutely.
Literally, porn on dial-up internet. I watched it in my grandmother's room.
100%. I relate to this so hard because I remember like my journey and like figuring out my sexuality and like I think I told you like I searched porn and then ultimately found like gay porn to like figure out like the mechanics of it all. Anyway, I was looking at it so much that it was like causing problems or like they would find it and I would be like, no, they were just pop-ups. They were just pop-ups. And I remember once my parents had a cop, a guy that worked for the police, come to the house and ask me what I've been looking at on the computer and about how it was bad and illegal and that I needed to stop looking at things like that. And in my response was, it's pop-ups, it's pop-ups.
Oh,
so that's why I relate to this so fucking hard because the investigation of it all.
Not the fucking police asking you about your porn habits. I would have actually died.
I know.
Dead.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So that's what the fuck I was on when I was too damn worried about what the cops were going to come knocking at my house than anybody else's situation. And I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So one more anonymous quote and then a few general themes. This one coming from someone who was in a fraternity.
Okay. Oh, we love this. Juicy.
One of the hazing rituals required everyone to buy specific white briefs. They stripped us down only to the briefs and blindfolded us, and then made us run down the hallway. Then they washed our feet like biblical vibes. I was afraid the entire time a ball was popping out because I was still blindfolded during the feet washing. Feels very queer-coded because what did they want to see us bouncing down the halls? And what were they looking at while they were washing our feet?
Truly. What the fuck? I think, thank you for this insight because
I'm joining a fraternity.
Yeah, right? Well, I've always been so curious, like the hazing and like you hear about the like rumors of it all, but like that's the actual first story that I've heard from.
Yeah, the inside.
Right, the inside.
Yeah. Also, surely in the history of whatever fraternity this was, which was not disclosed.
Yeah.
Someone in those briefs, after running down a hall with these other men and sitting and getting their feet washed, is getting a boner.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, that's erotic.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, so creepy, too. Like, he's right. Like, running down the stairs, like, why do we have to be in briefs?
Yes.
Why do I have to be blindfolded while you're washing my feet? Like,
I mean,
that is not a brush with heterosexuality.
Honey, they thought it was, honey, but they were straight out of a queer novel.
I mean, I would be worried about the same thing. I would have the same thought in my head of like, am I, as a closeted gay person, gonna get a boner in this scenario because there are other dudes in white briefs around? I mean, that's the Walmart wall brought to life.
Yeah. 100%, which leads nicely into some of the other like themes that people submitted around like locker rooms and like what happens in locker rooms. And we didn't have showers in locker rooms. And I do think that there's this like perception of like, oh, you might get a boner in the locker room showering or whatever. But also too, like the trauma that I would have felt in that moment, like, honey, shriveled up dick. I would have been so scared that wasn't it. But this person actually shared, I did not know that this was a thing, but that there was a lot of shame and like bullying around foreskin because he's uncircumcised.
Yeah.
I was very unaware of that, but
Right.
like totally is a thing. I did my research and asked around.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, asked around.
Feelings not facts.
Yeah.
I surveyed Grindr.
But yeah, like that's something that from my own personal experience, I wasn't familiar with, but like around me, I had no idea that was even a thing just because of how I was brought up. But
because no one talked to us about what circumcision was, even though they did it to us without us knowing, and we just were told to expect it to be normal.
Right.
So then when someone's not like that, it feels weird.
Yes, exactly. And you then don't know what to do with it if you're ever like presented with it in like a scenario. Anyway, I do agree with that too. Like I was so concerned about getting a boner, but I never did because I was so mental about it that I was like.
Yeah. Also, shout out to all the uncut cocks.
Hallelujah.
Also, if you want to know how to be an ally, or if you're gay and listening to this and you have any opinion about it, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
And if you're ever murmuring any kind of opinion about an uncircumcised opinion that isn't how delicious they are, then you should probably stop talking.
That's on allyship.
And that's on allyship and not being a stupid gay that is a dum-dum. Some of the other things that people wrote in, cruising was a very big thing. Like someone talked about cruising a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Also on the cruising topic, websites like Manhunt and squirt.org. Squirt.org would like tell you where the cruising spots were. It's like at this time, which is now Sniffies.
Yeah.
Thank God for Sniffies.
Right.
And then also to like Craigslist misconnections and like reading. I remember even just reading, using the Craigslist misconnections to jack off.
Yeah. I remember doing that too. Like I would look for the M for M personal section and just look at what people were typing about. Like I mean, it's very much like what we talked about in several episodes ago about like the personal ads or the classifieds in newspapers. It's just that brought to life, but that was a source of like, oh, not even if it didn't even have to have a picture with it. It was just like reading that someone else feels this way and this is what they want. Like that in itself was very erotic.
Well, and to bring us home, honestly, I think that a big theme of this podcast and specifically this episode, it's so funny that we just watched Spring Awakening.
Yeah.
Because Spring Awakening was about conversations that people wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And even in the documentary, Jonathan Groff is talking about his sex scene with Lea Michele, and he was in the closet at the time, and he was like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was so afraid that because I didn't know how to perform this sex scene, that I would be outed.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was relying on the choreography to teach me what to do and how to have sex. And I did not realize how much Spring Awakening and the music and me diving into the lyrics changed the trajectory of my entire life. And I love that this has become a place for us to say things and to talk about things that otherwise would be brushed under the rug.
Yeah.
Because one of the girls in the cast who plays a character that has been sexually abused was talking about the fact that she had been sexually abused.
Yeah.
And it was such a heavy, heavy show. And it was such very, very intense content. And at the end, you know, she said, what kept us going every night is we wanted people to know what would happen if you didn't talk to your kids and if you didn't tell stories and if you didn't have these open conversations. And spoiler alert, it's a devastating show.
Yeah.
And I just feel like watching that the night before we filmed this and just closing out what has been such an amazing season of our lives and only the beginning. And if there's anything that Queer Coded Country is, it is a space to say things that have only ever gotten to previously live in the shadows and not be discussed.
And it's not easy. It's not easy to have those kinds of conversations.
Yes.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be had, but I do think it takes nerve and it takes guts and it takes courage and it takes bravery to talk about these things, even if they do make you uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's what I am proud of us for, because we have done it through personal stories that are funny now looking back.
Yes.
But that's what Spring Awakening was doing, was telling it through an art form that allowed you to be able to consume the message.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that anybody could walk away after listening to this podcast or other queer stories that you're listening personally, is that right there. Is like, it takes nuts to be able to be yourself and to have those conversations.
Yes. Well, I don't know that I have any parting shots that we didn't just cover. And if I start talking more, I'm probably going to start crying.
Yeah,
so I think we just yeehaw to Yes Queen.
Let's do it.
So by this point in the season, you know the drill. Here we go.
Ethernet cables. This is a middle ground for me, because it's obviously like Yeehaw because it's like early days tech. It's like how you got access, but it's also Yes Queen for being able to download a terabyte of gay porn.
Yes, I think it's Yes Queen because it opened the world to discovery and ended with the police in your home. Lisa Frank. Honestly, both. We need to watch the documentary before we speak further.
Yeah.
But for us in this moment, without any knowledge of anything other than the beautiful patterns, I'm
the
gonna
colors.
say Yeehaw and Yes Queen.
I'm going to say Yes Queen.
Turkey basters.
I don't think there's any other answer but Yeehaw.
I ride them like you stole them, turkey cowboy baster.
I think it's Yeehaw for sure because of the access. You were using,
resourceful.
It's resourcefulness.
I was resourceful.
You were down to basics.
Yes. Just like the title holder who decoupaged their own porn.
Doing what you can.
Also, I do have a parting shot.
Okay, tell me.
One last time for the season. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, bitch.
All right.
The Queer Coded Country Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the fags of the queer-coded states of America and to the safe spaces in which we grew, one nation, under Casey Musgraves, indivisible, with yeehaws and yes queens for all. And that's on Y'all Come Back Now, You Queer.
Queer Coded Country is created and hosted by Hunter Poole and Tucker Travis, produced and edited by Sammy Junio.